Okay, we're back for another Battleborn Duckers podcast with who we got here with you? Who's your dad?
Right here.
You sure?
Yep.
Okay.
And we got little Kenny Powers over here, aka Cody Burris is my boy. Him and his super mullet. So today's episode, we're gonna talk a little bit about, this was 2 of our 3 youth that we took hunting with us last weekend up and getting some mule deer. So it was a pretty good time. It was a little bit frustrating. Wyatt's buddy went with us, and he's not here with us today, but he had a successful hunt as well. So all 3 of the boys had a pretty good hunt with us. So
I'd like to address something very important, Cody. How long have you been growing that mullet for?
Honestly, at this point, I do not know.
You want to let them know what your TikTok channel is? That's on some pretty good mullet videos with you on there. What is it?
KennyPowers.com.
No, come on, give your TikTok thing out.
It's a long TikTok that I'd have to.
Okay, we'll put. You know what?
Link it down in the description.
That sounds good. You know what? Maybe your dad could put one of those mullet videos on that
Cody,
you have
make
in
sure
there.
you get close to that microphone because we want to be able to pick up
You
all
put one of
the
those mullet videos in there, Brian?
stuff he said. We'll put some mullet videos in for Cody or Kenny Powers, Eastbound and Down.
You want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Cody?
So I'm Cody Burris. For the last school year, I was in multiple different leadership groups. Most notably, I was the Moapa Valley Heat FFA, a parliamentarian, the president for the Moapa Valley 4-H GIS team, and then I was director of community service for Moapa Valley JAG.
You've been a busy boy,
yeah,
man.
Cody's FFA thing, or his 4-H thing, sorry, was he's on the national GIS team, and so he was the club president locally, but he actually got to go to the Esri conference, which was a pretty cool thing for him. He got to spend almost a week in San Diego with all the big time people. It was like a $10,000 conference or something like that.
Oh.
And him and his people went, and he competed on a national level. Cody also shoots 4-H. He's 4-H shooting sports. He's a multi-time state qualifier in archery, shotgun, and rifle. So Cody is actually going to be our most experienced hunter. Cody is kind of transitioning with Ron and I. Ron and I were lucky enough to go with Cody on his first ever hunt, and this year we got to go with him on his last youth mule deer hunt. So Cody's kind of made that full circle. So Cody, what are your goals? What do you think you're going to do after you get out of high school?
I'm hoping to get a successful job, make a living in the shipyards, and I'll hopefully be able to make a family after that point.
Shipyards where?
Shipyards up in Seattle, Washington.
Didn't you guys just have something really crazy happen on a boat to one of your kinfolk?
Yeah, my cousin's boyfriend is actually a crabber. He's been a crabber for a long time. He was actually on a couple seasons of Deadliest Catch, and he was out doing some crabbing this year, and he was 2 hours from his last trip, and he was going to retire and go back home to Oregon and spend some time in Oregon with his girlfriend and just kind of live his life out there, and actually got crushed by a crab pot launcher and did some pretty good damage. He's got some significant fractures in his pelvis. At the point it happened, he was airlifted off the boat. He had no feeling in his left leg. Today, he has been through some surgery, has a crushed pelvis, had some blood clots that they got rid of yesterday, and is starting to get some movement back in his left leg. So it's kind of just goes to show, everything we can put into place, and we think we have a plan, and then at the last minute, everything kind of come and change those plans. So kind of reminded me to kind of live for today and let tomorrow sort itself out.
All plans are perfect till you start them, huh?
Exactly.
You gonna be on them crab boats, Cody, or?
I'll be working in the shipyards. I'll be building the crab ships.
Be doing welding then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Stay out from underneath those crab pots, okay?
Because
I need someone to
be part of that problem.
I need someone to pull the deer down the hill when I get old.
Yeah, when Ron and I get a hold, our hope is we're up in with Cody. We get to go up and spend some time doing a little sea duck hunting and maybe get some king elders and and Cody can kind of show us the way. Cody is a pretty motivated kid. His uncle lives up in Seattle, and had offered the opportunity for him to be able to go up there after graduation and either work in the oil fields or the shipyards. And I think Cody's kind of decided he kind of wants to go up and try the shipyards out and try to see what his life is as a welder. We're blessed enough in this community where we have a really good FFA program. Cody's been part of the FFA program now for 4 years, and he's been in the ag mechanics and the agriculture side both. And actually he's done some other stuff in that FFA group. So he's learned the welding, and right now he's rebuilding one of the pieces of equipment to maintain our ball fields. So he's pulling apart some hydraulic pumps and stuff like that to update that. So
tell us a little about yourself, Mitchell.
I'm homeschooled. I live.
No, so tell us a little about your hunting experience. When did you start hunting?
So probably it was at 11. I went with
No,
my
go
dad.
back further.
Oh yeah, I went duck hunting.
Go back further. Go back further with Grandpa. Remember, Avi was just born, and you went on your first hunt when you were 5 years old with Grandpa Stoker.
I
you don't
remember that.
You don't. How should you remember that? Yeah, and then you went duck hunting when you were 11, right? So you've been hunting for quite a while. So, what else? What else are your hobbies? You like Minecraft? What else do you do for fun?
Read books.
Tell us a little bit about the books you like.
Right now I'm reading a book called Aragon. I used to love a series called 8-Bit Villager.
8-Bit Villager. Okay. So you're a big reader. So what did you like about your hunting experience this year? Or do you got any stories from past hunts that you want to tell?
Oh yeah. This one time I went hunting with Dad and Ryan.
The director's saying you gotta look at the camera while you talk. It's over here. So you went hunting with Dad and Brian and Cody. Oh, you on Cody's first hunt, huh? You were there.
Yep.
Can you tell the story of your first hunt, Cody?
So we.
Okay, Mitchell, tell the story.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mitchell.
I bet Cody can tell it better.
Okay.
I don't remember much of the story, but all I remember is we got up there. We were hunting the main road. We saw this decent-sized elk the very first day.
elk or
Yeah, elk.
We saw that big old bull by the side of the road,
We
remember?
did see a bull on the side of the highway. I forgot about that.
Happened again this year, man.
It did. Must
Okay.
be an omen.
And then, a little bit further along the story, he ended up going down this super sketchy quad trail that was probably 2 or 3 miles long.
I think it was probably more than 2 or 3 miles.
It felt really long.
We were in there for a while. So it's we were in our truck in Ron's dad's truck actually, and this trail was maybe wide enough for a quad, if that. And
It
at
fit
one
a
point,
truck, man. Because I
one
know we
point-
drove it.
yeah, it fits the truck now. At one point, we actually had to get out of the truck and bring some hatchets and stuff out to actually clear some trees out from in front of our path. And Ron's pretty Ron's a little bit more
I'm
on the
an
sketchy
okay
side.
driver. I'm an okay driver.
He's an okay driver, but
If I get nervous, we know something's wrong.
But we'll go down a hill, and then we'll decide that that probably wasn't the best place to go down. Well, this time Ron, normally super cool, calm, collected, nothing bothers him, looks over at Mitchell and starts screaming and get a seatbelt on. I knew that's where we're kind of in a little bit of a sketchy spot. So we were at one point. Ron looked at me and he said, "Well, I think if we just turn the wheel to the left, we could probably ride that hill all the way down." and luckily we didn't take that course of action, but we actually got to the bottom, and we can't hunt as a group and have something that's not a memorable experience. And anybody that's ever hunted with Ron will tell you the same thing, that hunting with Ron's an experience you just have to experience for yourself. You get the job done, and you have a good time. You always have a story to tell at the end. So
Yeah, we've been really lucky and blessed. I mean, I think God's really watched over us on our hunts because We've got away with a lot of stuff we probably shouldn't have.
He absolutely has. We'll have a story one time when we have Jared, one of our friends, and it went
I'll save that one
for us, and we'll save that story for a later date. But it's a pretty incredible story of just God's grace and how He places things in your path that you can't deny that He was there with you.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Brian, why don't you tell them a little about the youth hunt in Nevada? Because it's kind of a cool subject. They kind of do something really cool for the youth, give them a lot of opportunities.
So the youth hunt in Nevada is a lot different than some other states. So a lot of other states, you can draw as a youth, but you're going to draw either a cow tag or not a cow tag, sorry, a doe tag or a buck tag. And in Nevada, the youth are really blessed because the youth actually have the opportunity to harvest no matter what. So the youth in Nevada get the opportunity to hunt all seasons and any sex. So they can hunt a doe or they can hunt a buck. So if you're out there and you're hunting with your youth and they're just having issues with the bucks, or you can't get them on bucks, which we've been pretty blessed recently to be able to get on bucks quite a bit. But if you can't get on those bucks, those youth can still harvest those doe tags.
Yeah, no, I really like Nevada. I mean, the youth get to hunt all 3 seasons. They get to hunt archery, rifle, muzzleloader, and on top of that, they get to either harvest a doe or a buck. So, when I was a youth, they didn't implement this program until I was about 16. I remember going out for several hunts and we'd chase buck and we'd hike all day. And my dad's a lot like me, so it was a little rough when we were young. Yeah, beat me up, but. At the end of the day, we go home empty-handed, and that, man, as a youth going home empty-handed, it's kind of rough. But I mean, that's life. I mean, we were talking to Ricardo, and Ricardo's like, "Well, I didn't get one until I was 17." But with these boys, they get to go out, and worst case scenario, there's always a doe somewhere.
We've had that scenario. So Cody was pretty lucky his first year. He ended up with a really nice buck, and that buck we had a taxidermy shop that was around that. Actually, that buck ended up making it in the SHOT Show. We changed the antler pattern a little bit and made it in the SHOT Show. So Cody was really lucky his first year. It took us a couple days to get it done. He missed a couple shots, which is kind of be expected with youth. Last year, we weren't quite so lucky. We just the shots weren't going the way we would like. We had 2 youth hunters with us. Cody was one of them. My niece was another one. Took a lot of shots and just weren't productive. And Ron and I, we're the mindset, we're not there to hunt for horns. I can't eat a set of horns. Now, I'm not going to lie to you.
If
you
want.
A nice big trophy buck came across my way, I'm not opposed to taking that trophy buck. But, we truly are about filling our freezers and being able to feed our families. And when you have youth that have tags, it gives them the ability to help provide for their families. And so last year we made the decision, coming up on Sunday, we were going to leave Sunday afternoon. And we had 2 hunters with us that we were going to harvest does at that point. If we saw a buck, of course, we'd take a buck. But, we really weren't so worried about a buck, and it's just getting these kids to be able to fill their tags. And Cody harvested a doe here, and my niece harvested a doe here. And Cody was lucky enough to where we had the ability to send Cody to Idaho last year to do a combination hunt. And he actually got a shot on an elk. His uncle took the elk after Cody had a shot on it. And Cody got, not only did he get a mule deer in Nevada last year, but he got a whitetail in Idaho as well. So he had those opportunities that you're not afforded very much anymore. And just the opportunity, I think, for kids to get out with their dads, and we're missing that in society. Or their mentors. We're missing in society.
Or their moms.
Men are taught that it's not right to do men things, and hunting gives us the ability to get out with our kids and show them that not all masculinity is a bad thing, and that we can provide for our families, and there's important things about growing up, and sometimes I know the military uses the term "embrace the suck." So part of hunting, especially for kids, is they got to embrace the suck a little bit. And I know Mitchell's been in the truck with us many, many miles. Cody's been in the truck with us many, many miles, and long days, 3 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock at night. And both of them have a pretty good attitude, even when Ron and I might be a little bit overbearing on them, I guess.
We get a little irritable when we get tired.
We do. We get a little bit irritable, and I think we just want the best for our kids, and I think every dad wants the best for their kids. And Cody can probably tell a story about when I kind of got a little bit on him this last hunt with.
Well, I've got a story too to tell about Cody.
How he's how we sometimes we get tunnel vision, and I think Cody realized it after the fact. Cody, why don't you tell what kind of happened in that little spot?
Yeah, we were lined up on a couple spikes, and then there was a 5-pointer or something like that, just a little bit off to the right, and I was locked in on this one tiny little spike, and I was trying my hardest to look as far right as I could, but I wasn't seeing it, so I took the shot off on the spike, and I ended up ruining Mitchell's shot on the same buck.
Well, it wasn't even Mitchell's shot, it was Cody's shot, and I think Cody realized after the fact that buck kind of turned and bolted a little bit, and I think we all as hunters get kind of locked in sometimes and they get that tunnel vision on. We have a job to do, and we're on an animal, and Cody realized a pretty valuable lesson that sometimes you need to take a step back, stop, take a breath, and look at the whole area before we make a decision. That's one of the drawbacks of hunting with multiple people. We had 3 hunters in the
3 tags to fill in the same truck.
3 tags that just because that you have a great what you consider a good shot doesn't mean that that's not going to ruin somebody else's chance at a bigger buck. So
hey, something you said about embracing the suck. Mitchell has a patterned method for how to embrace the no sleep, Mitchell. And you've been hunting with me. We went on that elk hunt in Arizona. We went on that deer hunt in Kingman. You've been on several hunts. I mean, you're a first-time hunter in Nevada. But what do you do when we have to wake up early in the morning? What's the first thing you do when you get into the truck?
Bring a pillow.
And then what do?
Sleep.
You go back to sleep. Why do you do that?
So I'll have enough energy to shoot the buck.
Is that why?
And so I won't get
wait a minute.
too
I heard an opposite story. Mitchell told me he does not sleep in a truck.
When we are on road, we're always on a bumpy road.
You know, it's kind of a funny story because we go and we already had 2 of our tags filled, and so we get to Saturday, and Mitchell's the only one left that has a tag to fill, and we're going up, and we're kind of coming up in our hunting area, and I'm like, we come across the buck run, he's passed out. I mean, he's dead to the world. I'm like,
but I told you, I said, I got to deal with him, man. He goes hunting. He gets to sleep when he can sleep.
And Ron's like, oh, he'll wake up. So we get on a buck. We got to get out of the truck to get Mitchell set up to take this shot on this buck. And Ron's handing Mitchell the gun, and the buck's to the right, and Mitchell's eyes are to the left.
Oh, man. So what happened is he was dead to the world. He was dead to the world. We've been hunting we got up before sunrise. We always did. We averaged about 5 hours of sleep a night. All the boys did. And so he was dead to the world. And if you have ever just woken somebody up out of a dead sleep and handed them something, they'll pretty do much whatever you tell them. And so he was dead to the world in the back of that truck. And we see a buck, and Brian starts hollering, I start hollering, Cody's hollering, and we're throwing him a gun, and we were safe. We were safe. He wasn't going to shoot any of us. We put it up, and we put it on the stick. He was ready to go. But man, I don't even know how he got the shot off, man.
No, and that's the thing is, so this hunt was, man, Ron and I hunt hard, and we usually get there about 2 o'clock in the morning, midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, and we get up the next day and hunt at 4 o'clock in the morning. And this particular trip, we tried to leave on Wednesday night to hunt Thursday morning, and just life got away, and we had some issues getting out of town. By the time we got up there Thursday,
Tell them about the issues, man. That's all hunting.
Yeah, we had some trailer light issues and just getting everything ready. And we get up there, we had time to drop a trailer and go up and head to hunt. So we were actually on time. So we had 0 sleep. Ron and I went back and took a nap that afternoon about 2 o'clock in the afternoon for an hour or 2, and the boys all stayed up, and then we got done 10 o'clock that night. We finally got back to camp and got the guns cleaned in bed, and 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and we're up again doing it the next day. And we got Cody his buck came literally with a minute to shooting light was over. So
We're
By the
getting that
time
thing in the dark, driving back in the dark.
we got everything done, we were 11 o'clock at night to get in bed again, and up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go back out hunting. So it's a long trip, and these kids did really, really well. They didn't complain.
Yeah, so on that point, something with your youth hunters is like if they need to sleep, make sure they're comfortable. Let them sleep. Let them enjoy the experience. Don't be hollering at them the whole time, and don't be pushing them saying, "Well, you gotta man up." It's not about manning up. I think it's about enjoying the experience.
Well, and we have two options we can do. Is we can either be really hard on our kids and make it to where they don't want to hunt, and it takes them years to be able to get the desire to go back and hunt again, or we can make them excited about hunting. And anytime I think anytime a kid harvests an animal, they're going to be excited naturally. But those times that the kid, you get onto an animal and it's not the harvest they wanted, or we don't harvest at all, you want to make those times still enjoyable enough to where they want to be able to go out and try it again the next time. So it's important for us as mentors to make it enjoyable for these kids. So
Hey Mitchell, so yeah, you were hunting with a muzzleloader, right?
Yep.
So Brian mentioned that every night you had to go back and clean them. Do you want to explain that process and how you did it and why you did it and what you used? Just this, so if someone hasn't muzzleloader hunted, I just want very, very proud of both our boys. We had to help them zero with getting those muzzleloaders up and going.
yeah, that was a good thing. Is Ron and I could kind of concentrate on getting animals processed, and we had a third boy with us that isn't with us today, but all three of them just sat down and put their heads down and got to work and did what they needed to do.
So tell them what you do with the muzzleloaders every night when you came back. Why was it important to clene them?
Because when you shoot them, the powder will clog up the gun, and if you don't clean it, your gun will break and less accurate. So first you have to get the gun open, take the primer out. Then you have to unscrew a bolt.
What's that called, Brian? It's the bore plug.
The bore plug, yeah.
Yeah, bore plug. You have to get that out. Then there's like some kind of lemon-y kind of stuff.
It smells good, huh?
So it's boar butter is what Ron and I...
Well, no, the bore cleaner.
No, the boar cleaner, yes.
So what do?
You spray that down there. You gotta scrub it.
You got a wire brush, right?
Yeah. Get that all clean. Then you gotta go through it with a cloth to make sure it's all clean. Then you have to make sure it's slick so the bullet can go out and in. So you need boar butter to do that.
Yeah.
Tip: don't leave it out at night if it's like below 30.
Yeah, we learned a pretty valuable lesson on that. So it got down into the 20s at night, and all the boar butter and stuff was sitting in the truck, and the boys had shot their first round for the day, and we needed to reload.
I started yelling at you, didn't I?
Yeah, and the problem was the boar butter was not coming out of the tube. It was frozen solid in that tube, so it was trying to get it, soft enough to where you can make it work. And the boys just kind of went to work at it. We'd harvested. We had one deer on the ground that was a kid that isn't here today, and he had a small spike on the ground. But I'll tell you that was a pretty cool experience for me. Is all the boys had shots on Thursday afternoon, and everybody had a couple shots, and they get nervous and they're not concentrating as much, and sometimes the education from a dad's standpoint isn't there as much, and we don't explain things like we know how to do them, and so there's some miscommunication issues there. But Friday morning we were able to take a first-time hunter that's not only a first-time hunter, but man, just a very limited outdoorsman. I mean, he caught his first fish a couple weeks ago, and it was the first time he's ever been hunting. His family's just not their speed, not their style, and we were able to get him and got him set up on a little buck, and he'd had some issues with accuracy on Thursday. I was able to sit there and talk to him and just kind of coach him through it and talk to him about breath control and slow trigger pull, and man, as soon as he did that, he just was dead center. He dropped it. It was that, he did a great job. He was a little bit far back, but
he was so excited, man.
That kid, you would have thought he hung the moon. Yeah, before that deer hit the ground, I think he was on the phone with his mom telling him he just harvested harvested a deer. So that's something that kid will never forget. I mean, and that's one of the things that ties us to the outdoors and to this lifestyle is you have those experiences that you don't ever forget, right?
Now, something with that boar butter, I know it got frozen and cold, but that's something I just recently learned about. So if anybody is going out muzzleloader hunting or is that stuff, you usually average about 3 shots out of a muzzleloader before you have to clean it. When you're with youth, you're going to be shooting more. And the boar butter puts you up to 5 shots, and it makes the bullets go down just so much easier.
Yeah, man, it's a lot less effort. At that point where we had frozen tubes, we were manhandling. It takes a lot more effort to load a muzzleloader without the boar butter. I mean, it certainly has been a godsend to us. I mean, it makes my life a whole lot easier when we're trying to get kids back on animals. So
now, also something you said something with being able to coach. Cody gave a lot of coaching in the back as a mentor to those boys, and sometimes when us old man are yakking at their ear, sometimes it goes in one out another. So what are some of the tips you gave those boys, Cody, while you were out there with them?
So the number one tip that I gave them was typically you will follow the shoulder line and then aim just below the shoulder for the perfect shot. And I don't remember really what other advice. Do you remember what advice?
Nope.
Cody's actually, speaking from his dad, it might go out one ear and out in one ear out the other, but Cody's actually one of those kids that he's an older kid, but he really kind of works with the younger kids and tries to explain things to where they can understand it. And Cody I'm really proud of Cody because he's stepped into the mentoring world really, really well, and I think he enjoys it. I think Cody had some issues earlier in his life to where he didn't want to be around a lot of people and stuff, and he stepped into more of a leadership role. And when you develop as mentors, when we try to develop people and you teach them and you mentor them, they in turn go on to mentor others. So my hope for Cody is that he goes on and not only teaches his own kids, but teaches other kids how to do it. He got to go shooting on a little shotgun shoot with his church the other day, and he came back and he's like, Dad, he goes, I was having a hard time telling the kids that they're doing it wrong, but being nice about it. And part of the problem it wasn't the fact that he has an issue with being nice about telling kids they were doing it wrong. It was the kids' dads had no clue what was going on. They didn't know the right way to do things. And Cody's always been like a sponge. He takes everything from around him and tries to learn as much as possible, and then push it on to kids like Mitchell and Wyatt and Nakoma before. And so it's something awesome to see that when you mentor somebody that comes up and mentors somebody else, it's a great thing. So
well, Cody, let's hear about your story this year on you getting the deer. Everybody likes to hear a good deer story, so tell us yours and we'll have Mitchell tell them.
Honestly, I don't remember much. My mind completely just went blank.
Yeah.
So Cody, we gone Thursday, all Thursday, had a couple shots
Thursday,
on.
Friday, I think it was Saturday
So Thursday he had a couple shots, didn't harvest anything. Friday morning we go out. Wyatt had harvested a deer, a little small forky, and then Cody, we're sitting down and we're working deer, and all we're seeing is does, and they're super skittish on Friday afternoon. Well, tried another area and got on. We're driving and Ron's kind of spotting, and Ron's like,
"Oh, in the back of the truck, yeah.
those are does. Just
keep
move
going
on." And I'm like, "No, they're not." I'm like, "There's at least a spike in there," and so
they had a better angle than I did.
So I'm like, "No, there's at least a spike." So we stop and Cody gets out and we start looking at it, and there's an okay buck there. It's a little 2-point, it's super tall. Cody has a history of Cody doesn't take a normal buck, so Cody doesn't take the buck that spreads out wide. Everything he takes out goes straight up in the air and for the sky. They're super tall. And so we get on this buck and we're like, well, Cody sets up. He gets a good spot on it, and pulls the trigger on it. It hunched up, so Ron and I knew he hit it. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind he hit
I
it.
didn't think he hit it because it started
Yeah,
running
no.
away all weird.
Well, he did. That
I knew he hit it when it rolled over.
Yeah.
that
I
buck
didn't think we hit it.
that buck actually took off and was in a dead sprint. Only went 20 yards or so, maybe if at that, and then it stopped, laid down, and rolled down the mountain. So at that point, we knew he'd harvested it. It was actually a really good shot. It went to the shoulder. It
shot,
was
yeah.
both lungs. So it was a solid harvest shot. And again, he got a 2-point, but it was a super tall 2-point to go with the super tall 3-point from his first year. So it was a decent buck. And then, we got home, we harvested late into the night, and that was, I was so beat by that
was a
point.
long
I don't
night.
even remember.
We got back up the next morning. And
Got back up the next morning, and then Mitchell, we had a little bit of an issue on that first shot you had Saturday morning,
Well,
didn't we?
Let me talk there. That was my fault. I woke him up out of dead sleep. He shot twice, and he shot right over both of them, right? And I was like, what the heck are you doing? And I was kicking dirt in the road, and I was pretty angry, wasn't I? Man, I don't know why you still hunt with me. You're a good kid. Anyways, I was pretty angry, and I was like, how are you aiming? He goes, well, I put the dot above the triangle. And I was like, you got to put it in the triangle.
No, I was putting where it would block the triangle. As soon as I lowered it down a little, it hit it.
Yeah, so it was my fault.
Yeah, it was. So it comes with miscommunication, right? We talked about that earlier, and you talk about putting the sun in the valley of the mountains, right? And so Mitchell, his thought process was you put it on the top of it. That was where it goes, and so that never got clearly communicated. Mitchell, pretty much all weekend at that point, was shooting just a little bit high.
Yeah, we figured
shooting
it
right
out.
over the backs of them, and as soon as
Go ahead,
it got
tell us
that,
what happened. Tell us what happened.
As soon as I found out,
What happened? We come up on that hill, and there's that herd, and there's that nice 2-point velvet, right? What'd you do?
got out of the car, put it on the stick, and right through the valleys, hit it.
That was it, huh?
So Mitchell got himself, not only did he get himself a buck, but I mean it's late September. It's mid to late September, and
Yeah.
we get up there, and that buck's, it's a 2-point buck. It's the horn set's a little bit shorter than Cody's, but it's in full velvet. I mean, you couldn't ask for any better for a kid's first ever buck. I mean, to be in velvet. So
And I was worried because Mitchell and Cody, they both like the Euro mounts. Well, that's the easiest and cheapest way to do it. Mitchell's actually doing the Euro mounts for all his buddies this year, and that velvet, I didn't know how to do it, and so I went over to Coots Taxidermy, and I talked to Bradley over there. He's this phenomenal guy, and he put me onto this velvet spray. And all you do is you take the antlers off, you wait till they thaw out a little bit, give them a couple spritzes with that spray, you're done.
and that goes to the testifies to how important it is to have good contacts and just be good to people, because Ron was able to go over there, and we'd actually saved all of our hides, just take over there to see if they needed any of them for anything. And actually Mitchell's hide, they're going to use it at some point because it was a velvet buck, so it's a little bit different hide than normal, but you build those relationships, and you can get things like that out of those people. And that turned into we're going to end up taking the boys from Coots for opening day up for one of the areas we hunt for ducks.
Yeah.
So we'll they'll be up on a podcast with us, I'm sure, about that opener duck season.
He's duck hunted before, but he's never done it out of a watercraft, so that'll be interesting.
Well, and it's going to be an opener in an area that should be a pretty good area.
Hopefully, yeah.
It won't be opening day. It'll be the day after because we have some obligations opening day for that area.
Yeah.
But it should be a really good hunt, and it's just when we take the time to build relationships and build bonds with people, then you can end up getting things out of people that other people can't. Ron and I had an experience just this week. We have a state waterfowl hunting group that somebody had just moved to the area and asked kind of where to go to hunt, and it's crickets in that room, and my reply was, well, I don't know much about northern Nevada, but if you're ever down to southern Nevada, let us know, and we'll at least get you into an area to hunt. We don't necessarily, we're not going to give them our honey holes or whatever, but we'll get them on some birds and somewhere to hunt. Well, his reply was, well, I live in southern Nevada, so I got on and had a pretty lengthy conversation with him about just the different areas and kind of what they hold, and we didn't give any specifics of spots and let him explore for himself, because that's, to me, that's part of the hunting thing, right? So
It's part of the journey.
you know an area, but you don't know exactly where to go in the area, and so it's trial and error, and we make things work, and we hunt hard. But I just don't understand pushing people out of a sport when it directly affects your ability to harvest in the future.
Yeah, it's not that hard to be good. I mean, he's going to get out anyways. And like Brian said, I think it's important not to give him the direct spot, like the X on the map. But because he might go to that X on the map and it might not work for him. But if you give him a general location, he gets out there and hunts it, he might hunt it differently than you, find more stuff out than you. And then since you gave him that tip, they might come out with you a different time, and you get to collaborate on that knowledge. I mean,
Well, and we're going to learn something. This particular hunter he's an Arkansas hunter.
yeah.
So he's hunted timber and stuff like that, and he is going to have a different technique than Ron and I have. And
Probably definitely be better at calling than me.
when we talk about, giving them an area, we're going to give them, hey, go up to Key Pittman, go up to Sunnyside. Those are areas that you can hunt. Sunnyside has how many lakes up in Sunnyside that you can hunt? I mean,
That's the one that's hard to hunt without a watercraft up there, though.
and that's the thing, is he's also a hunter that's, he's going to walk into most of his hunts because they don't have a boat. But, there's the ability for us out here in the West to kayak hunt a little bit. And I gave him some tips on where he can go pick up a cheap kayak somewhere. And
Sam's glad I want to sell for cheap a while back.
well, and we people overlook things like swap meets, and I think next year what we're going to have happen is everybody went out and bought
We're gonna sell
all
cheap
their water
kayaks.
toys because of
COVID.
the COVID coronavirus garbage, and everything was shut down. They're going to realize after a year that it's a lot of work and they don't want them anymore. And so you're going to be able to pick up some of that stuff really, really cheap. And it is about the way we grow our sport is by getting more people to buy hunting licenses in our states. And then for duck hunters, the duck stamps, man, it's going directly to increasing the hunting environment, right? So we're going to spend
that
some money
money
on
goes
game
back into
preserves and stuff like that. The other thing is, man, we're pretty lucky out here. We've got some wildlife management areas that do a fairly decent job, but what I see is people don't step up and go out and help in the WMAs like they should. And so if we actually go out and help those guys increase the ability to be productive out there, and whether it's planting millet or going out and do service projects to build some blinds, or
Get some of that sweat equity in there out there.
exactly, that's going to be important. So
I think it also, like, I might be superstitious. Some people don't change their underwear during fantasy football season, and I honestly believe I'm more successful the more projects I get on and the more sweat equity I put in. I think it helps me do really well throughout the hunting season.
Well,
Hey, Mitchell, I want to ask you, you have something that you really like to do when you're hunting. What's your favorite food, and how do you cook it when you're out there hunting?
So we have our own little tote for hunting.
no, that's not a little toad. That's like 700 pounds of canned food.
No, they're not canned. They're soup. Well,
That is canned
Soup
food,
is
man.
in a can.
Okay, go ahead. So what do you do?
so we get the soup out. We have this little burner, propane burner. We put it on there, heat it up.
Just one of them backpack propane burners. Yeah, so yeah, it doesn't have to be too expensive when you're out hunting with you. It's the little things. Like, that's one of your favorite memories, right? When we did that elk hunt in Arizona, what do we do every night?
Get the propane burner out.
Make cans of soup like homeless people.
And that's,
Shout out to all my homeless people that love clam chowder.
and I must have heard clam chowder 17,000 times within a period of 3 days.
Brian don't like clam chowder. He's like, let's go get McDonald's. And Mitchell's like, listen,
No,
we've
I'm
got a
not a
whole
McDonald's
tote.
fan for
We've
sure.
got a whole tote of clam chowder in the back. Brian, I will cook yours for you. Brian's like, listen, I don't want your crappy clam chowder. And Mitchell's like, well, okay.
So we do have, Ron and I have a tradition when we're up in the area that we like to hunt. So we're generally around the Ely area, and man, we have a celebratory lunch or dinner depending on when you harvest your animal. And
We must be fat boys, man. We talk about food every single podcast.
we do. So we we love racks.
We should put you can put the picture up in the podcast.
Picture
address.
racks. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're in Ely, I suggest you go there. The service is really good. The food's
They're
pretty
hunter
good.
based. They don't get mad if you have blood on your clothes.
Yeah, we come in and I mean we haven't showered in a couple days and blood everywhere and it was funny. The first time Cody harvested an animal, we go in there and we go to leave and the waitress looks at us and says, well, good luck, boys. And Cody looks at her with this big smug look on his face and says, I already got mine. So, but it's kind of nice because you get communities like Ely, and I'm sure there's a lot of communities across the United States that are dependent on those revenue dollars from hunting. And Ely's one of those. They have some mining revenue, but the hunters bring in a big...
And definitely support the places that love the hunters. You know,
Yes.
if you have a bad experience with a place, don't go back. Go somewhere that loves you.
Yeah, I mean, vote with your dollars is what I like to say. And I'm not a big one of boycott this or boycott that, but man, I'll sure spend my money where they're good to me. So
yeah, say it with your cash, right?
And I'll tell you that Ron and I are part of a couple different charities and stuff, and all we have to do is go up and ask Racks for a donation, and they're more than willing to help us out too.
Yeah, there's also 2 big chains in town, right? That do a lot of sportsman stuff, and there's one that will give you the shirt off their back. You look at them, and you say, I want this. Sportsman's Warehouse will give it to you. There's another one. It's not so easy to get it from, but Sportsman's Warehouse, Chris down the Henderson one, he is one of my favorite people.
Yeah,
anything you want, he gives it to you as a charity.
We go into them and say, hey, we're looking for something simple like buckets. We're looking for buckets, and they'll give us some branded buckets or whatever. Or hey, we're looking. We've got this. We do a big banquet every year, and so we've got this banquet, and so they'll give us gift cards, and so we'll take those gift cards and go around and turn them and spend them in that store and buy things to auction off or raffle
You're
prizes.
discounting them. I watched them between prizes and guns they gave us and other things. They gave us over probably close to $10,000 to $20,000 worth of donations to our wildlife habitat group. And so when it comes to me spending my money, I'll say it with my cash down there at Sportsman's Warehouse.
I'll tell you on that note, we have another big warehouse box hunting outdoor store in Las Vegas area, and we'll see how it goes. What they've offered, they've been pretty gracious enough to allow us to maybe bring our youth in to try to do some stuff for our friends at NRA program and sell some raffle tickets for some guns and stuff to help support that program as well. So,
but up in Ely too, Sports World, they've also donated every single time we've asked.
Ron gave Sports World a paycheck this last weekend for a cooler up there, but
I didn't even feel bad about it.
And it is, you go in there and we've gone to Sports World and said, hey, can you give us something? And even though they're not in the Las Vegas area, they generally step up and give us a little bit of something. So my thought process is, no matter where you're at, if you want to get stuff out of your sports stores or your businesses, man, make sure you make it worth their while. So we've got a guy in town that owns a sunglass company, and it's an international sunglass company that, man, he's given us anything we've ever asked for. So anytime we get a chance to kind of pimp his brand out online, I do it. And what happens is he wants to come back and donate later on. So
don't give them all our secrets, Brian.
No, we keep some of them close to the vest.
Don't give them our honey holes away, okay?
But it's pretty cool. I mean, Ron and I are pretty blessed to be able to hunt with our boys, and this trip was our boys and an extra, and Mitchell's, it was his first ever big game animal. Cody, it was his last ever youth big game animal. So both of them have a different experience. So
Something I was super impressed with these boys. I mean, they helped us. They got their hands bloody, but at the end of the day, we shot this thing up on a hill, and him and Mitchell, I didn't have to lift a hair to drag that thing down. That was so nice.
They drug Mitchell's out, by themselves, and Ron and I could kind of step back and watch and make sure everything was okay. And man, Mitchell, how excited were you to have Velvet on that buck, man?
Oh, I was so excited. So excited.
I mean, so you'll never forget your first hunt anyways, I don't think, but you'll
never forget your first kill. He hasn't been successful in that elk hunt or that other deer hunt we went on.
But I think when you add something like velvet to it, I think it just makes it all the better. Cody was lucky enough his first year he got a good buck that was a good sized buck, and then later on that year he was duck hunting and got a beautiful wood duck, which is almost unheard of down in our area of town. So,
hey Cody, since we're getting close to wrapping up, yeah. So we're getting close to wrapping up. Why don't you give us some, if you were gonna pass on some knowledge to new youth hunters, what are some few tips you'd give them?
Get the best sleep you can the night before. And don't get shook by the small things.
Right.
Always be hammering down to get that bigger buck, and don't just look and be like, this is the first animal I see, I need to take it. And don't get flustered by missing that animal.
So Cody did.
That was a good advice for you. Now, don't get flustered by missing the animal. That comes right from your heart, because when you miss those first deer, what happened that first year?
I was frustrated and I was missing for the rest of the day.
So you could tell Cody's demeanor changed that first day. I mean, he
just gets cloudy.
He was pretty depressed. And then I'll tell you, so we hunted one day really hard, his first ever hunt, and then he was depressed because he missed on some really good, solid bucks.
That's some solid advice, though, Cody. I appreciate it. Mitchell, you got any advice for these new hunters, like new youth hunters?
Make sure you stay there to get the buck.
So you had the opportunity to go home, but you stayed, yeah?
Yes.
So if you're up and a hunter has put out his time, you say just go ahead and stick with it till it's over, yeah?
Yes.
So both of the boys, fairly early on, Mitchell just wanted to be able to take something. He just wanted to harvest an animal. Mitchell's like, hey, there's a doe, I'm going to shoot at the doe. Cody was the same way. He's like, I'd rather have a big doe than not have a buck. And so both of them learned a pretty valuable lesson, I think, that sometimes when we have a little bit of patience and we pass up on the does or whatever, that we're going to have the ability to harvest a really cool buck. And both of you, I think, got really cool bucks. I mean, they're not record breakers, but man, they're cool, and man, it's hard. It's not an easy thing to just beat any buck, but I mean, those bucks are good, solid bucks, and you guys will have some enjoyment with those.
Yeah, and then no, it's really proud. You guys did good, and I think if there's any takeaway points from this is that when you're taking new youth hunters out, make sure they're comfortable, make sure they're having a good time, and try to keep your temper as old hunters.
Well, and I think that's something Ron and I really had to learn is it's hard to be a dad and take your kids out hunting because you just want the best for them. And so, and I hope you guys understand that, Ron and I both are kind of like both your dads, right? So, so we're hard on you because we want the best for you guys, and it's, you guys did really good about not taking it personal and just moving along and trying to figure out what we did wrong and fixing that. So I enjoyed my time out hunting with both of you and Wyatt too. I mean, it was good to see you guys be able to harvest, and that was really cool. And then we sat down and had lunch and watched got to see Allie come in after she harvested. What else did we end up getting to do on that little hunting trip that was not quite deer related? Do you guys remember?
Yeah.
What did we do, Mitchell?
I was able to cook some canned soup.
Well, I'm telling you, he is fixated
Brian,
on clam chowder.
If you want to talk about your sage grouse, you better bring it up because he's going to be talking about chowder.
It was blue grouse, number one, but I wasn't talking about that.
Blue, huh?
I was talking about Ron's little episode with a certain pest.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, the wasps.
So, Cody, tell us the wasp story.
So we were just walking around after a little bit of grouse hunting because we were bored for...
It was in the afternoon. There weren't many deer walking.
Yeah. And we were walking along this little cliff edge where it looked like there was a little rock quarry. And we saw this big swarm of wasps. We originally thought by passing it up, but then we decided to get in the truck, light it up, and then haul out of there.
Yeah, I had to shoot it and then jump back in the truck and take off.
Yeah.
So Cody actually, that's one of his wonderful TikToks. we were pretty cool. We got to do for the first time. We saw some blue grouse and some ruffed grouse run around the area, and Ron, I never had the opportunity to be on grouse before like that, and so, man, I will tell you, if any of you hunters know the proper way to actually kill a grouse, man, those things are pretty resilient.
I've got a guy that's a grouse hunter. He said he'd come and show me.
So
I networked with him.
We got shots on probably 10 or 15 grouse, and man, they were solid shots in the middle of our pattern, and we harvested one. So they're a tough thing. So, man, I think it's about time for us to wrap this up, and I know Ron and I will be back. Ron and I are getting ready to head up north and do a little duck opener for the state of Nevada.
Yeah, we're gonna have a
Northeast.
couple new guys with us up there.
So we'll be back with a podcast with Ricardo and Morgan and talk. Man, I'm excited because we're getting to transition to duck season. Man, I got to get my gear ready.
It's here. We gotta get that boat up and running now.
What we've been waiting for all year, and man, we appreciate you guys spending a little bit of time with us, and we appreciate being able to spend some time with our boys and getting them out hunting. And man, as always, just be good to each other and take somebody out and get them in the outdoors.
Be good to
and
other hunters too.
Be good to other hunters.
We're all the new ones.
We're all in here together. We can't be better hunters unless we bring other hunters along with us. So.
And if everybody's wondering what Cody was doing under the table the whole time, the hunting dog Rock's under there, and so he was petting him the whole time. If you're like, what's this kid doing? That was it.
That's why Cody can't get Rock to listen to him, because he spends too much time giving him love. So.
Okay. Well, we'll see you next time.
All right. See you on the next one.
Thanks.